This is a story about pioneers.
There's going to be no way that there's not an id chapter when they get around to writing the history of interactive entertainment.
Every title that they release becomes a reference standard for the industry.
Demon killing.
You're a space marine fighting your way to and through hell and back.
Incredible graphics.
The new engine for Doom 3, it's really revolutionary in the fact that it gives us the power to really create just about anything that we can imagine.
They're just sitting there sometimes with their mouth open, just going, this is incredible.
And a legendary gaming franchise.
If you're going to list now the top 5 franchises in video gaming history, Doom's going to be on the list.
Every gamer on the planet right now wants to get their hands on Doom 3.
This is the history of Doom. It's May 5th, 1991, and a small company in Mesquite, Texas called id Software makes a big impact with Wolfenstein 3D.
It was not the first 3D game. It was not even id's first 3D game. But it was the first 3D game to really hit a national and even international audience. And it was done in a way that had impact. People weren't ready for it.
Games that to this point really hadn't looked anything like Wolfenstein did, and compared to today's standards, that's not that great. But at the time, this was just a revolution.
Wolfenstein 3D was the first real good example of id growing into a role as the originator of a genre and feeling confident about their humor level and their talent level, and really, unloading a lot of those skills on the genre they'd invented.
But Wolfenstein is just a warm-up. On December 10th, 1993, id Software releases an even bigger blockbuster, Doom.
The original Doom was really good because it was kind of the first game that kind of gave everyone a glimpse to the future of what games, would be like.
Deathmatch was an id terminology. The word probably existed beforehand, but was popularized by Doom. When people talk about frags and all the other terminologies, they're hearkening back to things that were set in place by Doom.
We enjoyed the jump to the more kind of horror action with Doom, and of course it was also driven by what we were watching at the time. Doom was always about aliens and Evil Dead.
There is no real way, to my knowledge, to estimate how many people have downloaded and played Doom shareware. I think you could make a very, very good argument that Doom was probably the most played computer game of all time, just because of all the people who downloaded it for free.
Doom will rack up more than 10 million downloads in its lifetime. id follows up with Doom 2 1 year later, but then takes a break from the franchise to release Quake in 1996.
Quake in its day was an absolutely phenomenal engine to debut with. It was just raw technology that you would look at and say, we haven't seen anything like this on the PC before. And then they took it a step further. It was actually brilliant fun to play in multiplayer, and really created the multiplayer shooter as a phenomenon event.
id Software's games in general appeal to fans because they put out next-generation technology with their new big games, and they're able for PC gamers to take gaming where it hasn't been before.
I was certainly a strong advocate of getting good 3D acceleration in early on, and we went out of our way to do some of the early things like the rendition version of Quake, the original GL Quake being freely released.
id continues to push the boundaries of technology with the release of Quake 2 in December 1997 and Quake 3 Arena in 1999.
Quake was central in convincing every serious PC gamer you had to have at least a decent 3D card, and preferably the latest and greatest.
Really the big thing was when we went to Quake 3 requiring hardware acceleration on there, and that was again a somewhat gutsy move at the time because there had been a few hardware-only games, but they had been these small niche products that generally hadn't been very successful.
But once you were past that hurdle, you were never going back, and PC gaming changed forever because that was the only way to play a shooter if you were serious at all.
And Quake 3 was looked at in a lot of people's eyes as a bellwether of, is this going to be okay to do this at this time? And while Quake 3 wasn't our largest success, it was certainly a big enough success that everybody looked at and mindset, yeah, you could still take advantage of the hardware features and still be very successful.
Every title that they release becomes a reference standard for the industry. It raises the bar once again.
id Software is ready to start its next game, but the small developer must first face its inner demons.